Welcome to OLC 4.0, Term 2B. This is Class 12, and we are working on assignments 15 and 16 today and looking at adjectives. Today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. Sorry, 2024, yeah. And Jillian Percy. Oh, my contact information is gone. The main thing is if you're trying to reach me by email, jillian.percy@nnec.on.ca. If you're trying to send in homework, then it would be studentwork@nnec.on.ca. Okay, today we are going to work on understanding the different types of adjectives, using adjectives in our writing, how to brainstorm notes for reasons and examples in order to write an opinion paragraph, how to turn your brainstorming notes into sentences in different ways, how to edit and proofread writing. Okay. We discussed adjectives briefly at the beginning of the course. Adjectives describe either nouns or pronouns. In other words, they describe or modify people, places, things, or ideas. Adjectives can be used to describe age, color, size, shape, purpose, number, origins, material, quality, or opinions. Adjectives can be incredibly specific, like black spruce pine tree, which brings up a very specific picture of the exact type of tree you are imagining. But adjectives can also be much more broad and vague, like tall, thin tree, which could describe any number of trees, such as a jack pine or a poplar or a birch. One type of adjectives are a type called determiners, and some people consider them part of adjectives. Some people consider them something slightly different, but I decided to cover it as part of adjectives just because it is sort of controversial. There are 6 different categories. First are articles, a, an, or the. Those have to occur before any singular noun. And then possessives, things that are showing ownership, my, your, his, her, its, our, their, whose. And you can picture it because a lot of times you might have something like your house, and your is a possessive, but it's also acting as a type of adjective in that sense. Demonstratives, this, that, these, or those. Numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. Ordinals, which are showing what order things come in rather than just counting, first, second, third, fourth. And quantifiers, which are showing number amounts that aren't specific, like a few, another, several, much, many, a lot, any, some, or very. Um, Initially, when we were talking about adjectives of opinion, I was a bit baffled as to what they meant. Like what are some adjectives that describe opinions? I feel like something's missing here. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking at this thinking, I feel like I'm missing a few slides. So if that is true, I will tackle them tomorrow just in case there are, because there should be something there that I don't see. Sorry. Oh, wait. Hang on. Hmm. Sorry, I played around with a little bit before I started trying to try and trigger that log out, and I still didn't manage to do it. Um, Adjectives that describe an opinion end up being a huge category because the way they describe opinions is so big. I would actually refer to them as quality, which I think is a little more understandable. But you can see, I'm going to give you some examples. You can see how it could go both ways. Like you could say it's an opinion, or you could just say, well, that's just one of its attributes. That's just how you would describe it. So, for example, I eat the pizza and think it's tasty. Tasty is obviously an opinion. Dad ate it and thought it was terrible. Again, that's another opinion. Mom took a bite and says it's greasy. Now, I would say greasy is just an attribute, not necessarily an opinion, but it might be an opinion. John ate 4 pieces and says it's filling. And again, I would describe that as another attribute, but it could be an opinion, right? If The Rock ate that, he might not find 4 pieces very filling, right? Because he's a different type of appetite. So all of those words in red are essentially voicing an opinion or describing a certain quality of the pizza. If you want to check out Kathy Steinman's site, she has some more interesting stuff on adjectives. I'm going to just kind of go through a little bit here. Some types of adjectives don't need a lot of explanation. Like if we talk about size, remember that size can be adjectives like tall and short, but it can also be things like wide, narrow, heavy, light, all those kind of sizes too. Ages refers not just to people, but you could also refer to history. Things like ancient, prehistoric, young, babyish, elderly, youthful, middle-aged, medieval times, Renaissance times. Those are all kind of referring to a type of age as well. Shape can include things like wavy, curvy, pointy, as well as more typical shape items like squarish, rectangular, circular. Color. Remember that although we have like 11 basic colors, the kind of that you'd get in like a little Crayola box or in a marker box, there are literally hundreds of names for colors used by artists and others in the design field. Some are simply descriptive, like red violet, and others are more evocative and trying to make you picture something like burgundy, pine, seafoam, burnt umber, right? If you ever go into a paint store and see the names that they have for some of the different colors, you'll see how many different ways there are to describe, say, a certain shade of yellow. So here's an example. The old tall tree in the yard had leaves that turned seafoam green and silver with the sunset. So those are different color adjectives. Adjectives of origin, those are normally describing where something came from, and it's usually capitalized. It's often a country, but it could be describing a region or a specific continent or even a body of water. So I could say Pacific salmon, which would be different than Atlantic. Oh, sorry, salmon. Yeah. A Chinese vase, Swiss chocolate, a German car, American cotton, European oil. Now, if we were talking about a body of water, body of water would be Pacific, right? Um, yeah, that works. That works. Adjectives of material tell you what something is made of or made from. So if you look around your furniture, you might find a variety of materials in your house. Maybe there's a glass window, a screen window, or a stained glass window. So often we're describing what kind of material something is made from because obviously I know myself, I have a very different picture of what a glass window looks like from a stained glass window. A wooden table, oak flooring, pine shelves, mahogany work desk. So there you might have a general adjective like wooden, and then you have more specific types of wood listed, as specifically oak or specifically pine. An aluminum can, a copper pot, a cast iron frying pan, a plastic bowl, a paper plate, a wooden spoon, a silicone cake pan, a ceramic judge, a crystal punch bowl. You might have clothes in your closet made of cotton, canvas, knit, latex, leather, suede, fur, fleece, wool, linen, silk, or velvet. Yes, what we call what different types of material, clothing counts. Jewelry might be made from different types of gold or silver, bronze or pewter, platinum, with stones of diamond, rubies, pearls, sapphires, or other precious gemstones. Ancient tools and building materials might be things like ivory, stone, bone, antlers, clay, reeds, sod, or thatch. Purpose adjectives. These are a tricky one. These ones are almost like a part of the noun, and they describe what the object is used for or its purpose. Sometimes when you have ones that are very typical, what you end up doing is calling them what's called a compound noun. So sometimes it's tricky if you're looking at something where you're like, oh, I think of that as more kind of part of the name of it. It's not super important as long as you're aware that there can be some discussion of it. If I say add some adjectives and you weren't thinking of that as an adjective, that kind of thing. So we have a picnic basket, a computer table, a winter coat, oven mitts, gardening gloves, a surgical mask, a fitted sheet, a rocking chair, a toy boat. Okay, so as I mentioned the other day, I'm right in the middle of revising the Unit 1 for OLC 40. And there is both an original and a revised version of assignment number 15 and assignment number 16. You're not able to mix and match. You either have to choose both the originals or both the revised versions because they're kind of connected. So if you do the, oh, yep, if you did, or do the original version of assignment 15, then you have to do the original version of assignment 16 afterwards. Likewise, if you choose the revised version of 15, then you have to do the revised version of 16 and 17. I forgot about that. Okay, so today we're only looking at 15 and 16. Tomorrow we look at 17. It doesn't change anything for the marks, okay? The original A15 is worth 5 marks, same thing for revised. For the original, the A16 is worth 10 marks, and the revised is worth 8 marks, but then at A17 for the original is worth 8 marks, and A17 for the revised is worth 10 marks. And so ultimately, they're all worth about 23 marks, okay? For the revised, these three are all connected assignments, so you have to do them together. So take a look at what you've got. You're welcome to choose the originals. I do explain both. Come September, just in case you're listening to this many, many months from now, but come September, the revisions will be in play fully. And after September, at that point, there will be no more choices. You'll have to just kind of do the revised version. Okay, so here's the original version of number 15. It's worth 5 marks. Basically, you read through the following paragraph and you correct as many errors as you can. You are then to rewrite the paragraph. You can handwrite it or do it on a computer. Basically, because it's a lot easier for me to read. It's fine to go through and do all the little corrections here, but it can sometimes be very challenging to read when people hand me that, especially because it's coming to me usually photocopied. It doesn't always photocopy properly. So remember when you're doing any kind of editing, remember our acronym is CUPS, right? C for capitalization, U for usage, P for punctuation, and S for spelling. So a lot of times people focus only on fixing the spelling mistakes, which there are plenty of in here, but you need to be aware of other errors as well, including the capitalization, usage, and punctuation, because that's definitely there. So we're just going to kind of review our knowledge of those things so that you're able to do the assignment. We've already discussed the rules for capitalization a few times. The biggest, most important things are the first letter in names, titles, and sentences have to be a capital. And generally, you're not going to have a capital for no reason whatsoever. Okay. I do want to mention one quick reminder. If you're editing a run-on sentence and you use a period or another end punctuation to create a shorter sentence, then the new sentence is beginning right afterwards, and now it needs a capital for the first letter. So if I originally had the sentence, the bear was hungry after spring, and it began to look for food, and I decided to split it up, cross off the and put a period after spring, now the it is a new sentence. So I can't use the little it, I have to use the big or the capital I. So that's one that tricks people sometimes because they're kind of focused on the period and they're not really thinking about the capital letter. The other two biggest errors with capitalization, and I see these all the time, is the word I must always be capitalized. A big hint, if you see an I with like a little dot on top, that can't be referring to yourself, okay? It's fine to use little case I in other things, but not when you're referring to yourself because you're a person and persons have names and we always put the names with a capital, right? And this includes when it's part of a contraction. Sometimes people will remember it for the I when it's alone, but they're not sure about it when it's part of a contraction. But it's still the same thing because you're still talking about yourself and you still have a name. And again, we use capitals to show names. So things like I'd, I'll, I've, I'm, you can see it's got the capital I for each one of those. Occasionally in the middle of a sentence, someone will use a capital letter after a comma or a semicolon. I'm not sure if it's just a mistake or if they think it's needed there, but it is not needed there, okay? So for example, I went to the park, comma, and then we got ice cream and they put a big A for and. It's not needed. We only put that after a period. So here I would just have, I went to go to the park, comma, and then we got ice cream, but the and has no capital letter, okay? So if you add a capital where it doesn't belong, that is just much of a mistake as forgetting to put a capital where there should be one. Okay, so here hang on a second. Let me just kind of get rid of this. What I did here was I just kind of wrote out a little paragraph so that we could kind of run through some of the things we need to edit and tackle it one at a time. Now, I know. People will want to just let spell check find everything, but I really don't find that it does. It may depend on what software program your computer uses, but I have definitely run through spell check and even grammar check and thought I was doing okay and then found mistakes later on. So be cautious of that. I'm also going to look at just one type of correction at a time to try and keep things a little bit more simple. So here we're looking at this. It's got a bunch of mistakes. And you can see it's flagging some of my spelling mistakes, but we're not going to worry about those. We're just going to worry about the capital letters for right now, okay? So spring is most hopeful time of the year. Days are gradually brightening. Chasing, okay, chasing is in the middle of a sentence, so it doesn't need to be a capital. It should be lowercase. Chasing the night farther away each day. The air warms up so slowly it is almost undetectable. Sometimes that should be a capital S. To trick you, spring lets loose oh, there's some mistakes here for sure, but we're not going to tackle them yet. Um, Sometimes spring has a lowercase, sometimes it has a capital. I'm going to leave it for right now, but I would be consistent. Like if you have lowercase at one point, it should all be lowercase. And if it's uppercase in one point, it should all be uppercase. Kind of pick one and go with it. Um, with snow flurries that send you into despair, or even worse, week of overcast skies so dreary, you almost long. Wait, that's in the middle of a sentence. I don't need a capital. You almost long for cold, sunny days of winter again. At first, I thought it was just me. Oh, wait, there's the word I. I has to be a capital. But I see the signs all around in others. For right now, I'm just gonna kind of underline things that need to be changed. I see the signs all around in others. New clothes. I don't know if that's really beginning of a sentence. Right now, it's the beginning of a sentence, but I would want to check that. And a stylish haircut or suddenly putting on their sneakers and hat to jog down street. In, it's the beginning of a sentence, so it should be a capital. In winter, cold makes you want to hide and feeds into dark thoughts. Okay. That might haunt you, but okay, it's in the middle of a sentence. So again, we wouldn't have a capital letter there. But spring promises that the night is not forever and darkness does not win. Just around corner, spring is or summer is coming. Okay. So there are a lot of problems here. We've only tackled some of them. But you can see how just kind of focusing on one thing rather than trying to find all your mistakes at once is like a little less intimidating. That took us less than a minute, right? Okay, so for usage, usage is a really generic kind of category, and it's kind of large because basically anything that needs to be corrected grammatically is what you'd want to look out for here. Things like words in the wrong order in the sentence, make sure that every sentence has a subject, a verb, and makes sense. The biggest thing I see, singular nouns must have an article in front of them, a, an, or the. This is an English thing. I not all languages have this, but it is a thing in English. So for example, I can't just say old red barn. I have to say the old red barn or a old red barn. Plural nouns cannot use a or an, but they can use the because a or an means one by itself, but the is meaning like specifically that thing. Um, this is a category usage that kind of gets bigger the more you understand grammar. For now, we're just kind of focus on those errors. Here, I've put kind of specifically subject verb agreement and a, and, or the. So subject verb agreement is when, if it's a singular noun, then it has a singular verb. If it's a plural noun, it has a plural verb. And we talked about this the other day, I believe. And we were talking about the biggest problem is usually with the verb to be, because at every single version, it am, is, are, was, were. There's so many different versions of it that people don't always quite recognize that it's the same verb and isn't always the right one to be used for that particular noun. So spring is most hopeful. I'm going to fix it just because it's driving me actually crazy. Spring is most hopeful time of the year. Days is, okay, days is, I can't because days is plural. So it shouldn't be with is, it should be are. And I am going to fix that one just so I got it there. Days are gradually brightening, chasing the night farther away each day. The air warm up. Okay, air is singular. So the verb should have an S on the end, warms. The air warms up so slowly it is almost undetectable. Sometimes to trick you, spring let loose. Okay. Spring is also singular, so the verb needs to have an S. Lets loose with round of snow flurries that send you into despair, or even worse, week of overcast skies. I don't think they mean just 1 week. I think they mean lots of weeks, weeks of overcast skies, so dreary. You almost long for cold, sunny days of winter again. At first, I thought it were, no, can't be were because it is singular and were is for plurals. It was just me, but I see the signs all around in others, new clothes and stylish haircuts, or suddenly putting on their sneakers and hat to jog down street. In winter, the cold make you want to hide and feeds into, okay. So this one has an S and this verb doesn't. Cold is singular, so we want to have S on both. The cold makes you want to hide and feeds into dark thoughts that might haunt you. But the spring promises that the night is not forever and darkness does not win. Just around the corner, summer is coming. So we got the subject verb agreement, but we didn't cover all the ands or the. Okay. Um, so right away, the spring. I'm not sure if I did this right everywhere because with having the three different copies, sometimes I got mixed up. The spring is the most hopeful time of year. Okay. Because I'm describing the time. Most hopeful are just my adjectives getting in the way. The days. So now all of a sudden that becomes a lowercase. The days are gradually brightening, chasing the night further away each day. Here, each is functioning to describe day. The air warms up so slowly it is almost undetectable. Sometimes to trick you, the spring lets loose with a round, a round of snow flurries that send you into despair, or even worse, weeks of overcast skies so dreary you almost long for the cold, sunny winter, for the cold, sunny days of winter again. At first, I thought it was just me, but I see the signs all around in others. New clothes and stylish haircuts, those are fine because they're plural, so they don't have to have a or an. Or suddenly putting on their sneakers and a hat to jog down the street. In winter, the cold makes you want to hide and feeds into uh, dark thoughts. It doesn't have to be the dark thoughts because thoughts is already plural. That might haunt you, but the spring promises that the night is not forever and the darkness does not win. Just around the corner, the summer is coming. Okay, so I've done the two usage errors we were trying to fix. Oh, I'm going to have to go on soon. Commas and periods. Most people use question marks and exclamation marks just fine, but people are often not using periods at the end of a sentence. This is the biggest problem I'm finding. Instead, people are using a comma, which is incorrect. Okay. Commas can be used to separate items in a list. So if I said, please buy me, and I tell you a whole bunch of things, milk, comma, bread, comma, butter, comma, and potatoes, that's just to make it clear that I'm not asking you to buy some sort of weird thing that's called milk, bread, butter, potatoes, right? A comma can also be used to separate short phrases that are part of a list. In the summer, they love to go camping, comma, to pick blueberries, comma, and to go fishing. But a comma cannot be used to separate two sentences unless you are also using a conjunction with them. So if I were to say, I loved my little brother, comma, we always played hockey together, that's incorrect. I could say, I love my little brother because we played hockey together and we played hockey together. So we always played hockey together, but you cannot just use a comma by itself, not to connect two complete sentences, okay? We've gone over those. I'm not going to worry about them right now. And I feel like if I do this, I'm not going to have time. So here is where we would just focus on the punctuation. Um, the biggest thing I would look for is pay attention to where your commas are. you should probably see a lot more periods than you see commas, okay? That would be the easiest way to say it. I'm going to do a couple, even if I don't get finished. Spring is the most, again, hopeful time of the year, period. That's a complete sentence all by itself. The days are gradually brightening, chasing the night farther away each day. So does that need to be a period? If I did, chasing the night farther away each day doesn't work. It's more like the days are gradually brightening. I think we might add the word and chasing the night farther away each day. There we go. Now this becomes a period, and that's the end. You don't want your sentences to be too long, okay? The air warms up so slowly, it is almost undetectable. Okay. The air warms up so slowly. I was going to put a comma there, but I can't because it's two complete sentences. I can separate them with a semicolon, or I could separate them with a comma and a conjunction. The air warms up so slowly. Ooh, I could also add the word that instead. That it is almost undetectable. And I'm going to fix undetectable because it's been also driving me crazy a little bit. There we go. Sometimes to trick you, spring lets loose with a round of flurries that send you into despair. Now, this is getting long, or even worse, a week of overcast skies so dreary you almost long for the cold, sunny days of winter again. Okay. I would look for a spot where I could split that really long sentence into two shorter sentences. Sometimes to trick you, spring lets loose with a round of snow flurries that send you to despair. I'm going to try period there. Mm, I don't know. See, I want to put a capital letter there, or even worse, a week of overcast skies so dreary, comma, but I think it's kind of confusing. I'm going to fix the grammar for this, okay? Otherwise, I could do it, but it's a really long sentence. Even worse, a week of overcast skies. Even worse would be, how about even worse would be a week of overcast skies so dreary that you almost long for the cold, sunny days of winter again. Okay. I'm not going to finish the rest of it because we're just kind of running low and I got to explain both types here. Oh, and spelling programs don't catch every mistake. There are two main type of mistakes that a spelling program will not usually catch. One is if you spell the word correctly, but it wasn't the word you were actually trying to use. For example, if you meant to write, oh, he was a leader that influenced others, but you accidentally wrote he was a leader that inflamed others, the computer's not going to tell you it's wrong, right? That's a meaning issue, not a spelling issue. And that comes up again when you're using homophones. Homophones are words that sound the same as another word, but they have a different spelling or meaning. And the same thing, that's why it might not be right for that sentence, but it's spelled correctly. The three biggest problems or problem combinations that we have are 222, there, and it's. So two with one O means the location, two with the W means the number, and two with two O's means also. Their ERE is the location. Their EIR is possessive, like it belongs to them. And there with a apostrophe is a contraction for they are. It's is a contraction for it is when it's got the apostrophe, and it's by itself is the possessive version. Okay, so that will give you information to be able to do exercise 15. This is looking at the original assignment for number 16. It is a journal entry on the writing process. It is worth 10 marks. So they've listed the questions separately, but it's just because they're trying to make it obvious to you. They still really want you to answer them in a paragraph format, okay? So it says, in this lesson, you've looked at the writing process and what it can mean for you as a writer. Please take some time to reflect on the importance of following the writing process for you and the writing you do on a regular basis. Use the following questions or information to guide your writing Your journal entry will be at least 6 sentences in length. Comment on the use of writing process for assignments. Provide some examples or anecdotes about your own writing at home and at school or at work. So talk about how do you feel about using the writing process? Which steps of the writing process seem to be more important to you personally than others? And explain why you feel that way. And number 3, which steps of the writing process do you feel like you need to improve on? And how do you think your teacher might be able to help you improve in those areas? Okay, so in this entry, blah, blah, blah. They specifically want you to reflect on the stages of the writing process and your ability to do the writing and thinking activities associated with each stage. Now, if you've not been really using the stages, which I know is true for some people, but just writing down whatever you want and handing it in, it's going to be really hard to discuss the stages meaningfully because then you're really only doing 2 stages, a rough draft and publication. If you are doing that, I really, really urge you, start using the stage, start doing brainstorming, rough draft, final draft, because you really will find it will dramatically improve your writing and also, hey, your marks, okay? Because I do look for that kind of stuff. Quick review of the writing process stages. Number 1 is planning or brainstorming. Number 2 is your rough draft. Number 3 is your revising draft, where you improve your writing through all the different means. Number 4 is where you're editing. That's where you're just looking for capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling errors. And then the last stage is publication, where you hand in to me whatever format's been requested, handwritten, typed, with a title page, whatever the assignment's required, make sure you follow those criteria. Okay. So sometimes people do the bare minimum for these journal assignments. They just write the quickest, shortest sentences possible without really looking much at what they're saying. And here is an example. The writing process really helps my writing. It is very helpful to me. It helps my writing. Now that I use the writing process, my writing is better. I am glad you taught us the writing process. It really helped my writing improve. Okay, so you do have your 6 sentences, but they're very short. They're very repetitive. They keep mentioning the word help, 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 without ever really explaining how it's helping. I don't really know how it made your writing any different. So that kind of answer is not going to get very good marks because you haven't really told me anything. You've sort of, I've done 6 sentences. Okay, sure, but you haven't really answered the question in those 6 sentences. Okay. So here's an example where the person has taken the time to really think about what they're saying, and they're giving me lots of details and examples. And this is what I'm looking for. Okay. The 5 steps of the writing process are all important, but I found brainstorming and writing a rough draft the most useful ones for me. I never really wrote down the ideas I brainstormed before. I just thought a little bit and then tried to write, but this didn't work very well because I often forgot some of my ideas. So then I tried to write as quickly as I could so I wouldn't forget them. Now, this example only has 4 sentences. They need to write more, but it's already so much longer and way more interesting. And I'm getting a much clearer picture of what they improved on and how. And that helps me as a teacher to know what do I need to explain better, right? Okay, let's take a look at the next section. Hang on. Okay, summary versus reflection on the writing stages. It can be really easy. I get this all the time is where people summarize what the writing stage is. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see what's your opinion on how you are doing with the writing stages, which is kind of a type of self-reflection. So in the white box here is what I don't want you to do. It's a summary. The planning stage is where people think of what they're going to say. They also think about what order they are going to say it in. Okay, true, but that doesn't answer the question because here you're just explaining what the planning stage is, and I want to know your opinion about it. So here's an example where it is your opinion. I think I find the planning stage the hardest stage because I have a hard time thinking of what to write. I also am not sure how to figure out the right order for my ideas. And this can make it tough to get started due to how difficult this stage is for me. So here, you're still talking about the stages, but you're telling me very specifically your opinion of them, giving me examples of what's hard. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for to get good marks in that section. So here's a checklist for a great journal for assignment number 16. Number 1, you've written at least 2 sentences about your opinion. on using the writing process to complete assignments or do work outside of school. You've written at least one sentence on which writing stage is the most important to you, and you've explained why you think it's most important. And now you've written one sentence on which stage you feel you could improve on or that you find really difficult. You've written one sentence on how your teacher could help you. You have at least 6 complete sentences in your journal, and all of your sentences start with a capital letter and use some sort of end punctuation like a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. Remember, a comma is not a type of end punctuation. Okay, so those are the originals. Now we're going to look at how to do the revised versions, okay? You don't have to do it. It's new. Up until September, this is total. Well, I'm going to start changing it pretty soon. Once I'm finished this section, I'm going to put the revised versions in, okay? So the first assignment, number 15, is we're going to be brainstorming arguments and examples for an opinion paragraph, okay? So we have 2 possible topics for a paragraph, and you're going to have to pick one. So the first topic is all drugs, including potentially harmful ones, should be made legal so they could be controlled and regulated like alcohol is. Do you agree or disagree, and why? Or our other topic could be handguns, but not hunting rifles, should be banned in Canada as they are only used to shoot people and create more problems than they solve. Do you agree or disagree? And why? Okay. So assignment 15 is really just about practicing our brainstorming stage. Sometimes students have never tried to brainstorm or plan their writing before. They've always just dived in with complete sentences. And I have to say, I know people might not be aware, but you can really tell when somebody hasn't spent any time thinking about their ideas before they start writing. So you do want to make sure you do this, okay? A lot of times, not brainstorming is what's making writing hard. Because when you're writing on a topic, you have to think about so many things at once. Your ideas for the topic, your paragraph structure, the sentence structure, the spelling, punctuation, the vocabulary, the grammar, the usage. Oh my goodness. It's a wonder our brains don't explode when we write. That's a lot of things to think about at once. So the writing process is all about trying to separate all those different things and breaking them into smaller, more manageable chunks for our brains, because our brains can only hold about 5 to 7 things at once in them. Okay. That is a scientific thing. That's not my thing. So if you have too many things you're having to think about, it just makes writing so slow and laborious because you have to think about way too many things at once to do it. So the brainstorming stage is essentially the idea stage. All you're trying to do here is generate ideas or generate examples, but they don't have to be in perfect sentences. We're not worrying about that part. Often a word or two might link an entire sentence or an example in your mind. For example, if I said California visit while I was making my little notes to myself, that phrase might not mean anything to you or anyone else. But for me, I would be remembering the entire visit I had with my auntie that one year who lives in California, but I don't have to write the entire visit down at the brainstorming stage because the brainstorming stage is normally for you. Now, in this case, I'm going to be seeing it and marking it. So you do want it to be comprehensible to me. So you might write a little bit more than you normally would. But generally, I don't collect the brainstorming. It's just for you to think about and to give you ideas. Okay, so I'm going to show you assignment 15, but also assignment 16 because they are connected to each other. Assignment 15 is us just kind of getting our thoughts and our ideas down so that we're able to do assignment 16 really well. So assignment 15 is worth 5 marks. First, I think I changed that a little bit. Okay. So first, state which topic you're writing on, okay? Which topic? Because there's 2 topics. And then tell me, do you agree or disagree? That's all you have to do. Copy the topic, tell me whether you agree or disagree. And then tell me one reason and give me an example. Tell me a second reason, give me an example. Tell me a third reason and give me an example. And then assignment 16 is where we take all these little jot notes and turn them into good sentences and start to write our rough draft. Okay. So I'll go into that side more. It's basically this side, but more integrated, I guess, more put together. Okay. So this is what we're working on. This is kind of a blank version. It does not have to be full sentences. It can be jot notes, but I should be able to understand what you mean, right? If you just write time, and I don't know what he means about that. I can't really give you marks if I don't really have any clue what it means. So you may have to write a little bit more than you normally would for brainstorming just to make sure I understand. So today we're also going to be focusing on giving reasons for our opinions. In our normal everyday life, we don't necessarily have to give reasons for our opinion. We just say, I like blah, 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 or I feel blah. So, for example, I like swimming. And no one says, well, tell me why, right? Because in conversation, we don't do that. But in writing, we practice supporting our opinions with specific reasons, like, I like swimming because the water cools you off in the summer, or I like swimming because I'm a very good swimmer. So when I'm talking about reasons, that's what I mean. Okay. And then what we also do is we give examples or details. Now, I've written these in full sentences just so they make sense, but you don't necessarily have to do a complete sentence in your jot notes. So, my reason, I like swimming because the water cools you off in the summer. That's my reason. And now I'm going to give you an example. There's nothing better than coming home from a hot day at school and diving into the pool to cool down. Then I give you another reason. I also like swimming because I am good at it. And then I'm going to give you my example. Sometimes I would enter competitions as a kid, and it felt so great if I won. Then my next reason, hang on, I put the word details there, and it's not the word I want. I want the word reason. The other great thing about swimming is all the fun games you can play in the water. That's my reason. And then my details or examples are, it can be so much fun to play water volleyball or create diving games or play Marco Polo. Examples. Um, so that's what we're going to be aiming for eventually. So the steps to complete assignment 15. First, pick which topic you want to argue about and put that in the very first section. Okay, so right here, state which topic you're writing about. It is never appropriate to ban books. I picked a different one just to kind of be able to role model this for you without giving you all the ideas. You would only have option between those two choices that we looked at. Decide if you are for or against the topic, and then you put the next line. And all you have to tell me is, do I agree or disagree? It's all I need. I don't need anything bigger than here. So this mine's really, really simple. Now, part 3, if you think about one reason why you agree or disagree with our opinion statement, and then you're going to jot down your idea. So for example, banning books is denying people free speech. That's one reason why I don't agree. Okay, this is an example. I could agree, it doesn't matter, just as an example. Sorry, no, it's my reason, not my example. Then I would give my example here. Politicians might ban books that reveal bad things, such as, I don't know, affairs, lies, misconduct, to keep in power. And so I gave my reason, I gave an example. And then you just keep on doing that for number 2 and for number 3, and then you're done assignment 15. It's really pretty simple. So here is how yours might end up looking. Again, I'm deliberately using a different prompt so that you're not tempted to copy. State which topic you're writing on. It is never appropriate to ban books. Do you agree or disagree? My opinion is I disagree. Half a mark for my topic, half a mark for my opinion. First reason, some books teach people how to harm others. Example, a book on how to make bombs at home. Half a mark for my reason, half a mark for my example. Second reason, some books teach people how to hate others. Example, Mein Kampf, the Hitler's book. That was the one he wrote about before World War II, which actually is banned in many countries. Half a mark for the reason, half a mark for the example. Third one, some books teach people lies or deny that historical events even happened. For example, books written claiming that the Holocaust never occurred. Half mark for the reason, half mark for the example. And then you've got one extra mark for quality of the reasons, the examples, the topic. just kind of, it's a kind of a generic mark. So you've got an easy 4 marks as long as you just follow the instructions. And then if it seems like it's on topic and you're not repeating yourself and it all makes sense, you got an extra easy 1 mark. So super easy to get 5 marks for this, okay? Then we're going to go on to assignment 16, right? In this assignment, we're going to be working on creating great sentences out of the jot notes that we did in assignment 15. We just finished that. And that might require expanding our ideas or joining our recent examples into longer sentences. So our big focus for this assignment is turning our tiny little notes and ideas into larger, more interesting sentences that are still grammatically correct. So here is what it looks like, a bare outline, okay? You're going to create an opening sentence that states your opinion. Reason one. Now, reason one is going to include, or you're also going to have your example included in there. Same thing for reason two, same thing for reason three, okay? And then the closing sentence is going to restate your opinion in a new way. That's a big part of paragraphing. We're still stating your opinion, but you're just thinking of a new way to say it, okay? So how do we turn our jot notes from assignment 15 and then turn them into complete sentences for assignment 16? So here's an example from our first one. If you look at the first thing, some books teach people how to harm others. That's basically a complete sentence already. I don't really need to do anything. And then the example, a book on how to make bombs at home, just needs a quick introduction to become a complete sentence. So I could make this a grammatical sentence very simply. First one is already there. Some books teach people how to harm others. One example is a book that how to make bombs at home. Ta-da, I'm done. Or I could go a little more upscale. Some books teach people how to harm others, comma, such as a book that explains how to make homemade bombs. It's the same thing. I've just phrased it 2 different ways. This is a little more sophisticated in a sense because I've combined 2 smaller sentences into a compound. Yeah, kind of a compound sentence there. You can also add transitional words or phrases at the beginning of your sentences that can help the flow of your paragraph. These kind of phrases might help establish the sequence or the order. They might explain the cause, suggest limitations or conditions, or help to provide a contrasting view. So order, you might use things like first, second, third, first of all, firstly. For sequencing, like if you're trying to tell someone the steps to do something, you might use to begin, next, after that, then, finally, at last, in closing. For cause, if you're trying to establish what the cause is, since, due to, because of, the effect is, as a result, consequently. If you're trying to give another example, in addition, as well, furthermore, for example. And then limitations, if, even though, despite the fact. And then you could also show contrast, like on the other hand, however, although, to contrast. And those are just kind of things that sort of connect your sentences by letting your reader kind of know how they relate to each other in a sense. So here's how to add a transitional phrase. Some books teach people how to harm others. One example is a book on how to make bombs at home. And I could change this to, first of all, some books teach people how to harm others. Same sentence, I could also go, to begin, some books teach people how to harm others. So either way, that gets across the idea, hey, here's my first reason. Here's my first argument, okay? You can also add more details or give more examples in another sentence. So here is my third reason, and I've got one little reason here, but this is a really important topic to me, so I added a whole bunch more details or more examples. And that's totally fine to do. It's a really sign of good writing as long as you don't get carried away. So finally, some books should be banned because they teach people lies or even deny that historical events happened. For example, sometimes people write books full of lies to deliberately try to smear a person's reputation. In addition, there are some books written that claim the Holocaust, which killed 6 million people, never actually occurred. People should have some confidence that what they read is not simply a collection of lies created to harm others. So that's one way. So then you end up with something that looks like this. So here, this should look more polished or more complete than assignment number 15. It should all be in complete sentences. Your details should be expanded upon. Your examples should be expanded upon. This should be almost your final draft in a sense, okay? I'm running out of time to explain that, but hang on, let me just take a quick look ahead. Okay, I'm pretty good. This part is worth 8 marks. 1 mark for creating a good opening sentence that states your opinion, okay? I believe that it is appropriate to ban books that actively encourage others to hate, to do harm, or to believe lies. And I'm just going to eliminate that part for right now. Reason 1 has 2 marks. 1 mark is going to be for your reason, and the other one is for your example. That is one we already covered already. Reason 2. Second of all, some books have been written to encourage people to hate another group of people deliberately. For example, Adolf Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, in which his hatred for Jewish people was paraded and encouraged others to hate them as well. Okay. Reason 3, we've talked about, we kind of expanded upon. I'm going to kind of just jump down to the closing sentence. This is where you have to restate your opinion in a new way. And I will talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but just kind of quickly here. In closing, although there are some possible dangers to banning books, there are also dangers to allowing books to be freely circulated that encourage people to believe lies, hate others, to kill them, or to rewrite important historical events. So essentially, I'm restating my opening sentence and I'm briefly mentioning my 3 reasons here. Okay. So that's a very common way to do a closing sentence. And we will talk a little bit more about that because I've run out of time. But if you're wanting to, I'm really hoping some people will want to try the new improved version of 15 and 16. I think they're really interesting. I think they're actually a little bit easier as well. And it will set you up to have some experience writing opinions because in Unit 2, which is coming up soon, you're going to have to write opinion essays. Woo! So I want us to practice writing paragraphs first, okay? Thank you so much. If you have any confusion or questions about this assignment, give me a phone call or shoot me an email. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you guys again on Monday.